ado, I will hand it over to Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Thanks, Michelle. It's it's a pleasure to be here with you all today to talk about some new strategies and approaches towards expanding your ability to target into Meta and LinkedIn. And AnnMarie, it's great to be talking with you today. So just a little bit of background on Versium, and then I'll pass it over to AnnMarie. We've been working together, two of our organizations, for quite some time now, and accomplishing many of the things we're going to talk about in today's webinar. Versium is an identity technology company. We've been around for about 12 years. And you can kind of think of us as a data processing workbench where we've got a number of data technology tools that help marketers on their data-driven journey of using data in marketing. And this really falls into three phases. We help fix first-party data using data prep tools, make the first-party data better. We enrich it with additional data, whether it's contact data for expanded reach or insights data like demographics and things like that. And then we help optimize activation through a whole suite of tools. And we work with companies like Leverage Labs here, who leverages our capabilities for their clients. And we've been working together for quite some time. So I'll pass it over to you, AnnMarie, to do a brief introduction.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so happy to be here with you today. So I'm AnnMarie. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Leverage Lab. We founded Leverage Lab in 2017 to help organizations leverage their first-party data, their customer data, to create more revenue. So we're first-party data experts. We work in a wide variety of industries, and we deliver value across the entire enterprise through customer data, through first-party data. We help people organize it with cutting-edge tools. We enrich it with data like Versium and our own AI. We activate it through omni-channel personalized experiences, and we even innovate with our customers and create new solutions and new capabilities and new products that they can launch and generate new revenue with. So basically, if you want to make more money with your customer data, then you're a great partner for Leverage Lab. So I think we're going to get into it, aren't we, Chris, as they say?
Yeah. There's quick agenda of what we're going to talk about is the state of identity technology in the digital industry, shift towards first-party data, the dirty data story, about bad data, and then how you fix it, and then ultimately data enrichment and things that will optimize marketing capabilities for Meta and LinkedIn. And then we'll wrap up with some really great case studies and examples from AnnMarie and her organization. So with that, AnnMarie, we'll let you take it over and provide a little background on the context for all this.
Yeah, perfect. So nobody on this call is probably going to be surprised by any of this information about the incredible growth that we're seeing in the digital marketing practice. So this chart is showing that from like basically now through the next 10 years, digital marketing spend is going to double. It's already an astronomical $321 billion, but expected to grow to more than $600 billion in 2032. And, like I said, nobody's surprised by that, but, maybe the numbers are a little bit surprising. At the end of the day, the reason why it's growing so fast, and we all kind of know this, is the penetration of smartphones. Everybody's got one. Everybody's using it for their buyer's journey. The changes in consumer behavior, especially since COVID, leaning so heavily toward digital experiences. But then also on the buy side, the availability of the tooling around placing media in the digital channel has become so simplified and so available that basically everybody's using has lowered the barrier to entry to, putting spend into digital channels. As a matter of fact, I was just looking at something from one of our clients today, Adweek, that said that from 2020 to 2021, the number of digital advertising agencies jumped up 21%. So just the sheer volume of people that are out there placing media is another reason why there's so much money flowing through the ecosystem. And then here's something that we're getting into really our topic here, which is about waste and how to improve the efficiency of your ad spend. So this study quoted right here is saying that about 25 cents of every dollar is being wasted. Every dollar that's spent in programmatic advertising specifically is what this study is pointing to. There was actually an update to the study that came out today, oddly enough, that says it's 30% or more So this is, essentially telling you that every dollar that you spend a quarter is wasted because of inefficient practices. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today is how to get more efficiency from your paid media spend. I also, just to quickly quote another study, this is from AdParlor. It's a 2023 study that says that they're saying between 25 and 50% of your social spend is also wasted. So it's a problem. It's a real problem. And again, one of the things that we're going to talk about today is sort of how to mitigate that problem. So definitely stay tuned. One of the points of waste that we're talking about is really in relationship to retargeting and remarketing, which for the most part is a third-party cookie-based tactic. We are accumulating audiences that are fundamentally unknown or anonymous, and we are essentially pouring money into bottom-of-funnel tactics. This is a really compelling thing that Michelle brought to the table, talking about bots. If half of the internet traffic today is really fundamentally bot-based, then how much of your spend is being wasted chasing around a pixel-based audience that's fundamentally bots? So there's a real problem. There's a real problem out there. And in our belief, essentially the solutions are around first-party data. I mean, all is not lost, right, Chris? I mean, we've got opportunities to combat all of these issues.
I find it very interesting. And when I was doing my research and investigating some things for some of our different tools we were building, I was literally blown away to learn. It depends on what you find out there, but anywhere between 30 to 60% of internet traffic is computer generated. And so when we mean bots, we mean, these are search engines that are indexing. These are AI tools that are indexing. Certainly there's nefarious actions that are happening out there. People are, logging into some things, but a lot of computer generated traffic, that's the last thing an advertiser wants to put their dollars in front of. And in fact, going back to even 2018-17 timeframe, Procter & Gamble shut down $200 million of media spend because they found out that, in fact, most of those dollars were not going to the right people, let alone people at all. I mean, think about that, $100 million, if it's 50% computer traffic, that was wasted. And that's a huge thing. And so that's really, if you think about the evolution of the internet and how the identity graph evolved for computer targeting, it used to be that you just went to a site and whatever the content on that site was relevant to the targeting. I'm on a Ford trucks, or I'm on a truck site and it must be interested in trucks. And then the identity graph evolved where when anybody registered or logged in or supplied their identity or their contact data, offline groups could associate that contact data to insights like demographics, income levels. And so now advertisers could associate via cookie association. Once that first login happens and it's mapped to a cookie, now all impressions generated tracked by that cookie could be associated by the demographic profile of the person behind C. Matty at Yahoo and 123 Main Street. And so that really drove a huge growth in the industry to be able to do even better targeting over the last decade. But over the last few years, because of the lack of transparency of these black box advertising platforms, and because of computer generated traffic, because of lack of real visibility and knowing, are you reaching the right people? Not to mention Google's pending future removal of the third-party cookies. There's been a massive shift back towards first-party data. And what does that mean? That means that the enterprise who wants to market to a set audience of known people can upload that list to the different platforms. Instead of relying on their black box, they say, hey, here's a list of 5 million people on the West Coast that have certain characteristics, or maybe they've gotten a set of data from interactions with their own brand, and they want to target just those specific people. And so that has really put the power back in the advertiser to be able to activate their own data within these platforms and rely on their own perspectives with relative to, are they hitting the right people, and only target those particular people. Now you can do lookalike modeling, things like that to extend it. But what that's done is it's put a heavy emphasis on really tools and technologies that make first-party data better. Google allows you to do this. LinkedIn allows you to do this. Meta allows you to do this. And so the first thing you need to do is make sure you're dealing with the right data, that you're optimizing, and the rest. And so when you think about first-party data activation. Contact points can be uploaded into Meta, LinkedIn, Google, and even broader programmatic. The more contact points associated with your target audience, the better digital reach you have. And I know you guys do a lot of these things for your clients. AnnMarie, maybe comment on some of the things that you've seen in shifts towards emphasis on first-party data. I know you guys are doing a lot of things to help enterprises and brands and advertisers effectively target within these platforms.
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, it's really rallying around the idea that first party data and building a practice of gathering, enriching, optimizing how you're collecting first party data is really the first step. To create this, rich asset of understanding about your customers, step one. Step two is really to find those tools that are going to allow you to create a very robust identity profile for each of those customers, right? This is what I always talk about with our customers. But when you think about like me, I'm AnnMarie.Wills@leveragelab.com. That's essentially the only way to reach me from my professional identity. But in my personal world, I have several different email addresses, multiple phone numbers, several different devices. I've got different browser identities. So identity is this really complex cloud of, different data points. And so many of the tools out there for first party data are really restricting you and keeping you to maybe one primary identifier, like an email address. So the better you're sort of collecting and aggregating identity, the more opportunity you have to actually address the people that you want to talk to out in these different digital channels. So, it is really, really important to have that full view of your customer and your audience.
Yeah,
and
I was just going to say, I think the average consumer has somewhere between 5 and 7 emails. I've heard as many as 10. And, I showed previously CD Matty at Yahoo, which is an old email of mine. I never received messages there, but I use that to log into Apple and Meta. And so if you're trying to target me in these environments like Meta, or for that matter, LinkedIn, which is an even different email there, if you don't have that particular email, like you might have my email that you're messaging me via sending out of emails, chris.matty@gmail, which is the one, I'll use for that. But if you want to reach me on Meta and you don't have CD Matty at Yahoo, you're never going to put an ad in front of me. And so it's a very, that whole graph of identity is so powerful.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that when we think about, so how does a company take advantage of this capability? Certainly there are tools that can expand identity data. CDPs is an evolution that occurred over the last 4 or 5 years, where when we talk about multiple emails, it's not just different email addresses. It can be, hey, I've got data silos within my enterprise, and in one database, it's not me, but a person might be Rob Smith at Gmail, and the other one, it might be Bob Smith, and yet another one might be R Smith. And these are all the same people, different emails in different systems within the enterprise. How do you merge, purge, and dedupe these? And so the CDP has come in and brought a lot of value to centralizing the data. But now the question is, what do you do to activate it? And so I think that the shift's going to occur where now those big platforms that have done a great job centralizing first-party data are going to do many more things for activating, which is really where the value is. And so, but the first step in any of this is cleaning, fixing, and preparing the first-party data prior to going into one of these platforms, a CDP or a marketing automation system, or even to an agency or any other action. Is how do you make your first-party data better? And data can be a mess, right? We mentioned the dedupe issue, but there's also errors. You don't hit Shift 2 to get an @ symbol and you get a 2. Data gets old. Emails get invalid. People, move addresses. There's lack of standardization and normalization in data. There's missing fields. There's field shifts. I mean, I could go on and on about the hundreds of things that we've seen that is wrong with data. And there are tools out there. We have a data prep tool that will automatically fix this data and make it far more useful. And so now, once you have clean data, now you can do a lot more with it. So, garbage in and garbage out, right? If you're trying to build an AI model, that's just the latest and greatest. But if you have bad data going in, your AI is not going to work either. And so it's really important to fix data. Now that once you fixed it, now you can add to it. And so what we talk about here is, let's assume within your CRM or within your CDP, you've got 10 million records of polished, cleansed customer data. And now you have their contact data. You have details about how they've interacted with your brand. Now you can start adding additional data from third parties and third-party tools, such as insights like demographic profiles. So now you can target people who maybe had shopping cart abandonment, but you can make a creative customized for someone who's under 40 versus over 40. You can identify people who have kids in the household or who have pets. And I'm giving just some simple example of how additional enrichment with demographic data can provide optimized messaging. But then also not just the insights, but additional contact points. The more contact points you have, the better you're going to reach them in Meta, in LinkedIn, and all these different platforms that are out there. And this data allows you to do different segmenting and ultimately drive greater actions on your creative, greater engagement, and all of the rest. So that's sort of the next step. And so what does this look like? The more data you have on an individual, both upon your first-party brand interactions, as well as enrichment through these other elements, gives you that full picture. And as we look at it, it's not just demographics, it's firmographics. When we think about the B2B marketer, it's a whole nother realm because the whole ad tech ecosystem was designed to market to consumers. But when we think of it, we think of the full picture, right? So someone might be a VP of marketing at a Fortune 1000 company, been there for 7 years in a particular industry, maybe a technology industry, and that's who they are during the day from 8 to 5 or so. And then from 5 to 8, they're a soccer mom or soccer dad with a pet in the household and own a condo and drive a certain car. It's a real full picture. And the more you understand about your audience, the better you're going to message to them. And so it's a really powerful thing to be able to now take that data, build segments, construct a micro or an audience of that segment, and now upload it into Meta, and now upload it into Google and these other platforms. And so I know you guys do a lot of this type of stuff for your clients. I know we're going to get into case studies in a moment, but do you see? I'm sure you see a lot of value when people use these tools properly in terms of fixing and enriching data.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the real value prop here of leaning into your first party data from a strategic standpoint is everything that you know about that consumer. It's all of the insights that you have about the preferences that they have, the products that they purchase, their lifetime value to you, their next what's the next step for them in their engagement with you? That's all the real, deep, rich value of first party data. So in our way of thinking, it's all about how do we segment those high value audiences to give us the best chance of providing the most personalized experience for them. So if it at one level, a tool like Versium adds the ability to, to provide better addressability for those audiences, which may be very small. Especially we work with a lot of B2B customers and a high value audience of individuals who are in line to potentially buy a $250,000 piece of software could be quite small. So we've got to do what we can to improve our ability to address those folks. And so having those additional points of identity are just like hypercritical. But on the other hand, having those additional insights about where those people's minds might be or where they might be from a personal standpoint, it can be extremely valuable. So there's really multiple points of value coming from, a strong first party data strategy and using third party data tools to really enrich it.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. And we're going to shift over and talk about B2B here in just a moment, because that's a whole nother set of challenges. But, talking to some of folks we speak with, it's amazing that, the e-commerce entity within a major enterprise, I'm talking a multi-$100 million a year revenue, in this case, a retailer / e-tailer, meaning they have e-commerce and bricks and mortar, and their data sets are not connected. I mean, they can't identify, and associate the data they gather from interactions in store, for example, with online. And the lines are all blurring, right? And those, if you look at Amazon, and what it's done over the last 10 to 20 years of becoming the most dominant commerce engine, is because really at the core, they are a data technology company in many ways. Contrast that with some of the legacy brands that just are having challenges dealing with all this data. They don't have the association. Their CRM data is not talking to their commerce data, is not talking to their POS system. And that's really the first step, is how do you consolidate all this? How do you cleanse it? And now how do you derive insights from the data you're gathering as a brand, let alone, the next step of where we could come in with some of our tools, which is provide additional insights, this full picture that you see on the screen. But there's so much data that these large companies are gathering that they're just not harvesting or putting to use in the most effective way. And so whether it's, and again, B2B or B2C, it's really a person. We like to think of it as you're marketing to a person. Now, you might want to target, to your point, a $250,000 ad tech solution, but it's a person and a buying committee that's buying it. And the more you understand their characteristics, their age, the person behind the decision making, you're going to be able to do that much more. And that kind of leads us over to B2B, which everything we've chatted about targeting with emails, and I gave examples of CD Matty at Yahoo and Chris.Matty, but those are personal or what we call consumer emails. The entire multi-hundred billion dollar a year ad tech ecosystem was designed to market to consumers, meaning you're putting consumer products out there, and so think of LinkedIn. That's really, there's a slide coming up on, I don't want to steal that, but it's really difficult if you're a B2B marketer now instead of a list of people in your first party data you want to target with at Gmail and at Yahoo emails, you've got at Versium and at Leverage Labs, and you're talking about business domain emails. And if you've got 100,000 or 400,000 marketing decision makers you're trying to reach on Facebook or Meta rather, and you want to reach them even on LinkedIn or these other platforms, it's a real challenge because those platforms don't map to business emails, let alone the entire marketing ecosystem. So it's a real big dilemma for the B2B marketer that wants to target digitally. And I know, Amber, you guys, we've been working with you for years and help. You work with a lot of B2B clients. I'd love to kind of shed some light or have the audience hear. What have you experienced or what have your clients seen with some of these, some of this fundamental challenge that I pose?
Yeah, I mean, you're really hitting the nail on the head there. It's really about addressability. So, I kind of use the example of myself. I'm AnnMarie.Wills@leveragelab.com. That's how you can email me at my work, in my work professional world. But that is absolutely not how I'm reflected in the digital ecosystem from a identifier perspective. I'm using my personal email as my identifier for Meta. I'm using my personal email as my identifier for LinkedIn, and personal emails tend to be incredibly sticky and persistent where, people change jobs on a pretty frequent basis. I think I read something recently that said 3 to 5 times in your career, but as the younger generations are, becoming more present in the workforce, it's a much more frequent change that we're seeing. So, again, it just points to a really disciplined approach to first-party data strategy and using tools like identity graphs to make sure that you have as much identifier information as possible for your constituency so that you can reach them where you want to reach them. This is something that we encounter every day in our practice, that we've got a very high value audience segment. We know exactly where they are in the buyer's journey. We know exactly what we want to say to them. We know what products they're interested in. We know what value what value is possible from that user, but it might be 2,000 people. So being able to use these additional identifiers to make sure that we can reach as many of those people as possible is really key. So, if 75% of profiles in LinkedIn are mapped to your personal emails and all you've got is AnnMarie.Wills@leveragelab.com, you have a problem. And so being able to use, like I said, these kinds of tools to increase our potential to address you in a channel that's going to be meaningful, it's critical. It's critically important.
Yeah, and I think when you think of, we work with both B2B and B2C marketers, and the ones that are most effective, they're building top of funnel brand awareness out in the digital ecosystem to complement, their marketing automation activities, to complement their BDR efforts. We've shown where, if you're able to launch an awareness campaign in your target audience, that your BDR teams are doing outbound and outreach, we've shown that you can take your cost per demo from well over $400 to under $300, meaning that they're engaging more. Meaning, how much do you have to spend to get to that first demo? Well, if you call up somebody and say, hey, Versium, we're Versium, we like to show you all these great tools, and they're like, I've never heard of you, you're going to, perform much, poorer than if, I was just reading an article about you because I saw some ad that pointed to some content on LinkedIn or Meta. And, it's always shocked me, you think of LinkedIn as a B2B social media networking site, but 75% of those profiles, this is probably a year-old data, but or mapped to a person's personal email, right? cdmatt at Yahoo, not cmatt at Versium. Yet these platforms, and obviously Meta is far, far worse, but they have these abilities to have you upload these target lists of folks you want to market to, but the poor B2B marketer has been left out of the cold because of these fundamental reality of how the ad tech system has been designed. And that's just email, let alone, phone and all the other contact points. So mobile IDs, things of that nature.
Yeah.
The good news is, there are solutions, and this gets back to identity mapping and identity technologies. Is if you can associate the consumer identity to the business persona, i.e., to simplify it, if you've got a list of @business domain emails, 100,000 of them, let's say, and that's where you want to launch your awareness campaign on Meta or on LinkedIn. Well, if you can associate additional consumer identities to those same 100,000 people, meaning the @Gmail emails, the @Yahoo emails, physical address and mobile IDs, cell phone data, things of that nature, you can now take that list with these expanded set of identity elements, and now you can reach a much higher percentage. And all of these platforms, there's obviously sensitivities around PII data. I know when we do these things, we do it all in an encrypted fashion, so there's no transfer of PII, and all those platforms allow you to upload hashed emails and things of that nature. And so if you can associate consumer identity or contact points to business contact points, that really is a game changer in terms of what you see. And I know we talk about this in terms of emails, addresses, phones. We'll show a slide here in a moment on sort of the benefits, but you've been doing this for a couple of years, AnnMarie. I'm sure you've seen some. I know we're going to get to some case studies in a moment, but it's not just incremental gains, it can be game changing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, what I want to definitely make sure I get across is that it spans the entire funnel. It is meaningful for identifying really good lookalike targets at the top of the funnel, even based on very, very, small, relatively small sort of high value audience segment. It's meaningful for providing middle of the funnel sort of messaging to reinforce, personalized messaging to reinforce the buyer's journey. It's great for bottom of funnel conversion as well. So in terms of, really investing in things that are going to be high converting channels for you. So it's a really meaningful set of tactics, and it rolls up into that really strong first party data strategy. So, yeah.
Not only, and it's interesting, and I've got just a mini case example, not as exciting as yours, because yours are more customer based in terms of examples, but and I'll get to this result in a moment. But not only does consumer identity data map to a business persona or consumer emails to business, to simplify it, not only does it extend your reach, it allows you the ability to associate the insights data to the business persona. In other words, you might have a list you've gotten from a D&B or somebody of IT decision makers, across certain SIC codes, and now you got their business emails, and you're going to do business email marketing, and you're going to have your BDR folks call into the companies. But when you start thinking about activating digitally, not only do those additional contact points unlock Meta and LinkedIn, those consumer identities allow you to associate this demographic data. So now you can build creatives based upon who they are as a human being. So now, yes, you're targeting IT decision makers, but here's one subset of the population that are, female versus male. Here's another subset which are above a certain age. Here are people that live in, a certain city and have certain characteristics. And so that now you can customize your creatives. And research has shown the more you resonate to who a person is, and you put a pet on a marketing, even though it might be B2B and a person's a pet person, they're going to respond more. There's a lot of psychological studies that shown it. So companies that are able to combine that consumer and business persona do fabulously well. So in this example, just to simplify it, if you took like 1,000 business emails, typically a really powerful B2B2C identity technology company or solution can add upwards of 6,000 additional contact points for those same 1,000 people. So you got a person's name, the company, and let's say their business email. If you're able to add 6,000 additional contact points for those 1,000 people, that's 6 additional contact points, additional emails, mobile IDs, phones through identity mapping. To show you what that does, it's a game changer, right? It literally can take, match rates, meaning can Meta find those people in their ecosystem to put ads in front of them? And before, with just business emails, you only find maybe 11%. Once you do the identity, you take up to 82, 90. I've seen it even higher. Same with Google. Look at the Google dramatic change. And then with LinkedIn, LinkedIn does a pretty decent job, but you still get considerable gains. And when you're going from 11 to 80 or 90, we're not talking about 20 or 30 or 40% increase in reach or digital activation or ability to put ads in front of people. We're talking about 3, 4, 5x increase. And I know you guys, you're seeing this day in and day out with your customers. And, we're going to shift over and start talking about that now. But in fact, I'll just pass it over to you, AnnMarie.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, I mean, the strategy is pretty simple here. It's use your first party data to build more targeted audiences for all things. We look at targeting your audiences within your first party data ecosystem, kind of around, the classic questions that journalists ask: the who, what, when, where, and how, right? If you think about the segmentation within your world based on who is this person, what are they worth to me, and where are they in that customer journey? Are they somebody who's brand new and needs to learn more about me? Are they somebody who's a first-time customer but hasn't converted to a second-time customer? Are they somebody that is in my loyalty program? Looking at your data from a segmentation standpoint, based on that alone, is almost game changing from a tactical perspective. But then to add in we talked about the who, but the what. What are they interested in? You mentioned customer data platforms and some of these, meaningful technologies out there, but, you can get deep and rich insight about how people, what they're showing interest in and what products and solutions that are resonating for them by using some of this tech. So the who, the what, the when is all about engagement. Are they currently engaged with me? Do I need to spend more money to engage them? Or are they somebody who's disengaging with me and I do need to spend more money to re-engage them? So now you've got these different facets that live within your own first party data. The where and how is all about what channels are they responsive in and what kind of messaging has gotten them, to react in the past. Are they somebody that I can, that has been reactive to me in Facebook, somebody that has been, responsive in LinkedIn? And then did they like Reels? Did they like, a video ad? These are all things that you can have in your arsenal of first-party data if you have a rich first-party data strategy. So use that data to build your targeted audiences for all things, everything you're trying to get done. Lookalike modeling for top of the funnel, better ad messaging in the middle of the funnel to re-engage or to continue engagement. And then also at the bottom of the funnel, when you are, pulling them in for an around a meaningful monetary conversion. and then apply the identity data to expand the ability for you to reach those people in all touch, across all of your channels. So adding those additional, like he was saying, 10,000 people and adding 6,000 additional touch points. Now we can really reach out and meet those people in the different channels where they're engaging. You can take even the smallest, most precision-based audiences and make them viable in all of these platforms. So I've got some case studies. I'm just going to kind of walk you through, like, this is kind of typical stuff that we're doing to build activation and build value. So this is an organization that was promoting an event. Want to bring, people in to, buy a ticket and attend an event. So they have a 200,000 person user list. This is, the sum total of their first party data asset, basically, all the people that they can go and target. And a typical approach would be, like, hey, let's just, throw that into Facebook or throw that into LinkedIn or throw that into Meta or LinkedIn and get, maybe a 30% match rate. So now I've taken my $200,000 people who have opted into me. I have a value exchange with them. Like, I can market to them. But I've taken that list and I've reduced it down to 60,000 targetable people, which is, that's a significant drop in addressability. But using tools like Versium in this scenario, we've got 200,000 people. Let's filter it down by that, when factor that I was talking about, the who, what, when, where, and how. The when is, are they engaged with me? So let's go to the most engaged people and promote this, like, really, expanded sort of relationship. Hey, come to an event, hop on a plane, fly here, come sit down and be at my event. So filter it down to those top 50% of engaged folks. That's 100,000 people, but using those those additional points of contact to increase our match rate. Now we're getting 70% match rate on that significantly smaller, much more precise though audience. And our return on ad spend doubles. So do you see that it's really not rocket science here? It's really just,
what I love about this is it's like an equation, right? It really is. It's a pretty simple equation. Is you filtered down to the most likely engaged customers, but now you're filtering up, or you're not filtering up. You're increasing the ability to reach those people with additional tools. Boom, that turns into 4x increase. It's really as simple as that. I mean, it sounds simple, but there's a lot goes behind the scenes. But that's a game changer, really. And there's one. Let's go to the next one.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. So this is a business to consumer media company. And, as most people would recognize, a media entity brings people in sort of at the top of the funnel. And a lot of people will engage you to subscribe to a newsletter. This is a tactic to build that addressable audience. So it's a really common sort of scenario for a lot of publishers. And we work with a lot of publishers. So, using all of the first party data that we have, to construct really precise audiences, is really the tactic here. Before that, they were basically leveraging Facebook and LinkedIn and all of the interest-based audiences there to build a big lookalike pool, basically. And it was very top of funnel and costly, $30 cost per acquisition per newsletter subscriber that they were able to convert. So now coming in and saying again, hey, let's just go into, individuals who are most engaged and use that to build a lookalike audience and do that in Versium. So we're actually going and finding people that look like, this is a B2B media company example. So we're using Versium to help us identify like professionals to the people that we have within our ecosystem. So now we've got the ability to build that larger lookalike audience with way more precision, and not based on what Meta thinks a lookalike should be. This is based on a true, B2B lookalike. And that's what we activated on and tuned that up to get a $6 cost per acquisition. So that's, better than 100% return on your investment. So
you can't do lookalike modeling in a consumer world with this consumer media company like a Facebook, because they're not designed to find lookalike B2B companies. I think we've got one last case study. I know we're coming a little bit up on time. We'll leave some time for questions. But these are, what I love about, we can talk about tools and things that, we can do with first party data and how do you optimize it. Really what it comes down to is with companies like Leverage Labs that are doing it for their customers. These are real world examples. I mean, going from 30 cost per acquisition to 6, that's a meaningful, economic value to end customers. And that's what I love to hear about this, is how do these tools actually really work in real case study examples with clients?
Yeah, totally. So this is similar, we essentially, and we're kind of spanning the entirety of all of your solutions. So, one of the things that Versium provides is a tag that sits on site that'll identify sort of domain visits, right? It's an IP to domain sort of linkage. So we essentially, by applying that tag, we're sort of gathering IP domain traffic and then identifying likely targets from within the Versium data that are related to that domain. So, and then filtering those by job title, and seniority level. And again, applying that highly refined audience to the activity of, selling a course. In this case, it was a education process or education product. And again, taking the cost per acquisition from $120 down to $30, just by, again, a really precise audience segmentation exercise.
Yeah, it's, I think when you look at the history of how there's been a lot of tools that have evolved over the years to target B2B people. They did geofencing around corporate offices. Well, that doesn't work very well with the work from home environment because people are not there anymore in that geolocation. And even more importantly, you're targeting everyone within that geofence. You can't filter by the underlining deterministic identity data like job title and functional. Why spend ad dollars? It's no difference than going back to our example of computer generated bot traffic. You don't want to spend dollars on the wrong or not real people, but why are you wanting to spend dollars on not the decision maker? So yeah. Whether it was geofencing or even IP targeting, there are companies that do that, but it only allows you to target sort of a really a homogeneous population. You can't say, oh, look, I only want to target and pinpoint the exact people. And the more you can pinpoint and then use consumer insight data to do further creatives, I mean, you can see right here. I mean, we're not talking about 10 or 20% gains. We're talking about substantial 120 down to 30. That's gonna make any marketer, and for that matter, the CEO of every organization, extremely happy. And so these are all the benefits that you see in real time. So we've gone from, we've kind of gone from background in the industry, how identity evolved, what is identity, how do you shift to first party data, tools to fix first-party data, enriching it to get all these benefits, and then really putting a bow on it with some real-life examples that show the real benefits that can be seen. And so, we've got lots of these tools. We work very closely with leading agencies like Leverage Labs that leverage this on behalf of their clients, and it's a great partnership. So, Michelle, we'll turn it back to you to see what questions we've generated here.
Great. All right. If there are any other lingering questions, feel free to shoot them right into the Q&A. And I'm going to go through a few that we've had come in. So one here, and I know, Chris, you probably get this question often. Is an email address required for enrichment? So let's say someone has a list of contact information, but they don't have email addresses, or maybe they don't have email addresses for all of the users within that list. So can you explain a little bit further if an email address is required to enrich your data?
Yeah, no, the way our identity platform operates is we can take multiple different inputs in. We can take name and address, we can take email, we can take phone, we can take all those together. We can take partial of some of those because we have intelligence that can determine, even if it's a partial address, we can do some things around that. And not only, we also are very sensitive to privacy, and some folks, have their customer data is extremely important, obviously, and there's sensitivities around transferring of that data. Certainly commercially, we don't mix any of that data with any of our other data. That's fundamental. But even beyond that, if folks are concerned about sending in an email because that's an identity, we can take an encrypted email. We can take a hash of that email, which is really a string of characters that looks a bit like gobbledygook, if you will, or if anyone doesn't know what a hashed or encrypted email looks like. And we can take that in, which is, you can't do anything with that, but we can still map to that and provide back other insights and contact data as well. So there's different ways that really robust systems can handle different things like that.
Great, thank you. Next question here. This might be best for AnnMarie, as you work with a lot of customers directly. Who does this work best for? Enriching and using first-party data. Is there specific company sizes or industries that you think this strategy works best for, or is there any limitations there that you've seen?
Limitation. So, for very, very small companies that, may not have more than a couple thousand customers, the value prop is really probably more around better understanding your customer, who they are, getting an overlay of demographics to sort of add additional insight about who those customers are. It's like, that can prove really, really valuable. For industries where they have a larger customer pool, I would say this is an absolute must-have. One of the slides in the deck said, what's the risk to not doing anything with first-party data? Well, it's kind of an existential risk, and if you aren't thinking about how do we collect, how do we bring it together in a meaningful way, how do we add insight to it, then it's a big risk for your business. It's a practice that everyone should be paying some level of attention to, is building your first party data strategy. So I would say, at some point in the future, everybody's going to need this kind of help. Reaching people in the digital space it's fundamentally critical. So having additional assistance to, reaching those people, addressing more of them, it's meaningful.
Yeah, and I would just layer on and add to that from our perspective, most of our tools are automated, which means they scale from small all the way up to large organizations. And we have some people paying us just a few $100s a month because they have a limited or a smaller set of data. Because it's all automated, we can provide that same value to smaller organizations. Now, with that said, to AnnMarie's point, some of these platforms require a minimum spend. And so if you're a smaller organization without a big media budget or sufficient media budget, or you don't have as much data to activate the large enough audience, you might fall below the minimum thresholds that some of these platforms require. But other than that, I think it does scale. You do have to have a sufficient media budget, though, to get the benefits, I think, because it does take, you do got to cast a bit of a broader net.
Got it. Great responses. Thank you, guys. That kind of leads into the next question we've had here. Are there any restrictions on which advertising platforms you can send the online audiences to?
You want to take that one, or I can give my comments from a technology perspective?
Yeah. So, the primary channels where we activate on online audiences, first party data audiences, are Meta, LinkedIn. It's an available capability in a whole host of other platforms, though. So Snapchat, Amazon, the list is pretty robust. X. So yeah, here's the thing, there's a lot of regulatory pressure on on these walled gardens. You read about it all the time. But most of that regulatory pressure is really around them monetizing data about people without their knowledge. But when you have an opted-in relationship with a customer and they're saying, I am into you, we've got a value exchange, I am allowing you to market to me, and you're utilizing those walled gardens as a channel, that's never going to go away. That is the most, regulatorily risk-free sort of advertising opportunity that they can offer, is to make that available to marketers. So I don't anticipate that that's something that gets shut off, but it'll be a de facto expectation. Audio, connected TV, these are all places where you can utilize your first party data to create those audience segments.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think there's that many restrictions. I think it's more, some are more robust than others in terms of being able to use different data elements and the rest. But yeah.
Mhm.
Great, thank you. We've had a question in about international data. Does Versium handle international data, or what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. We get requests all the time from to do these types of capabilities we've been talking about today in different regions. And we did a little bit of that a couple of years ago. Took a little bit of a pause with all the evolving regulatory initiatives, certainly GDPR and some things over in the European regions. But now that that's sort of settled out and people have a handle on the rules, as the rules are evolving, you want to kind of make sure you step back and get a real sense of that. And we're now starting to invest a lot more time, energy, and resources into expanding our data capabilities on a global basis. Latin America, EMEA, certainly Europe and other areas, Asia, and things of that nature. So over the course of the coming 18 months, I think people will see that we're gonna be doing more partnerships with companies on a global scale, and as part of that, we'll be, as the data technology experts, looking to layer in these same capabilities for identity and contact mapping in some of these other regions. So that is now becoming the forefront of some of our strategies.
Great, thanks, Chris. And then we've had a question about APIs. Do we have the ability to run this type of data enrichment, first-party data enrichment through APIs for kind of larger scale needs?
Yeah, the way our whole platform works, and AnnMarie knows this because we've done a number of things on this front. So we have a UI-based solution that allows people to interface with a user interface, a graphical capability to upload data, to select the different tools that do different things, whether it's data cleansing or selecting which actions you want to perform on your data. But virtually all of those capabilities are also available via API, so you can programmatically take advantage of them. You might set up your data cleanse process of what motions or actions or changes you want to do to a data set. And once you've configured it, just hit an API and just do it. So you're always hitting that data without human interaction. And so, yeah, there also offers more flexibility. You can sometimes customize, and you may only get a couple flavors within a preset UI-based tool, but an API can be kind of more custom configured for customers that require slightly differences or different flavors, if you will. Yeah, I mean, anybody who's attended today, through the holidays, we're offering some discounts, some benefits, some advantages on our platform. The way our pricing operates is it all scales by volume of data. And we call them matches or match credits. In other words, whenever we're able to return additional data or construct new audiences. And for people who engage with us over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be providing some benefits and some advantages that will bring those costs down for everybody. And stay tuned. There's going to be some great news coming out throughout next year on lots of new great tools we're launching, partnerships, and all the rest. So,
great, thank you, guys. AnnMarie, any final words on your end?
Go get you some.
Great. Thank you guys both for being here today. And thank you for everyone who attended. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.